one of us will have to share the mic. I'm sorry, only,
We can share.
they didn't expect.
Larry doesn't need one, actually.
Do not! Your voice carries, you don't need one.
Projection.
Alrighty. I want to thank everybody for being here. My name is James Burrell. I am a writer with Roomwork Magazine. Woo! And the author of a couple of books. One of them is a book on Canadian horror films called Horrorwood North. And if you haven't done so yet, this is the latest edition of Roomwork. The latest issue is a 40th anniversary tribute to A Nightmare on Elm Street, with exclusive interviews with Robert Englund and Heather Langenkamp. So check that out at the Roomwork booth downstairs. So I'm very excited to be here today and to meet these three individuals sitting beside me. I'm a huge fan of Friday the 13th Part 3. I mean, of all the films, but I really love Part 3. It had an indelible effect on me, and I'm sure as well as all of you here sitting here today. I don't know what it was. It wasn't the 3D because I didn't see it in 3D initially. It must have been, I don't know, maybe
in the shower?
That fantastic hockey mask that is introduced in this film, and some really great kill sequences in this, and Harry Manfredini's fantastic music, and everything else. Steve Miner's direction, I could go on and on. But first of all, I guess I just would like to ask you guys, how did you land your respective roles? Larry, you were Shelly, and Tracie, you were Debbie. David, you were Chuck. Hippie stoner Chuck. And he's even decked out in the headband here.
I don't look the same, so.
Yeah, how did you land your roles? And Larry, I know you have an interesting story to tell.
I was 18 and I was a wannabe actor. I was studying theater at Cal State Northridge, and I had a job handing out movie tickets to sneak previews. You know, we do that in LA. You see a sneak preview. And I was in Westwood on a Saturday night handing out tickets to a movie no one had ever heard of called The Road Warrior. Trying to get people to go see this movie. And these people came up to me, this couple, and they said, "Excuse me, are you an actor?" And I thought maybe they had seen me as Roger in Grease at Fairfax High School, but they had not. I said, "Yeah, I'm an actor," you know, because I was an actor. And they said, "Well, we wrote this movie, and we think you'd be perfect." And that was Marty Kitrosser and Carol Watson who wrote the script. And they just saw me, and they're like, "Fro, fat, that's Shelly." Like they looked at me and they went, "That's Shelly." And so I had an agent. I gave my agent's contact info, and that was Saturday. And they're like, I said, "What movie?" They said, "What movie?" And they said, "It's Friday the 13th Part 3." And I was like, "Oh my god!" And then like Monday, no one calls, and I'm like, "Oh man!" It's like the thing. And then Tuesday, I got a call. I go down and audition, and so I didn't get there wasn't like they gave me the role because writers don't give roles in Hollywood, and but I got the audition and I won the role, and the rest is history. Yeah, amazing.
The easiest entry in the film in the history of films.
Yeah.
That is, I love that story. It's a great story. Hi everyone. Good to see you all. So he was 18, I was 7. My story's slightly different. I grew up as a child in show business. I did my first commercial at the age of 2. And went on to do a lot of television. I was on Little House on the Prairie for a couple of years, and I did episodes of Happy Days and My Three Sons and Marcus Welby and Love American Style. Some of you probably have never heard of those shows because they're back in the 70s. And And I had worked my entire childhood from a family of actors. My mom went on to be one of the top kids talent agents in town. In fact, represented a couple of actors in Friday the 13th, not just me. And I was getting ready to move to Michigan to go to school in Ann Arbor at University of Michigan. And so I was basically retired from acting. I was done. I'd worked my entire life, and I was done. And I was heading off to get my degree, and but before I left town, my mother, who was now an agent, called me and said, "Hey, they're casting this film," and like, "Mom, I'm in school, I'm going to college." And she, "Yeah, but it'll help pay for college." And I thought, "Ooh, yeah, that's a good idea." So I didn't know what the movie was, and in fact, the script was labeled Crystal Japan. They were hiding the name.
That was the working time.
Yeah, for union purposes, and Lori can give us all the legal issues on the.
All the movies were under the title of a David Bowie song.
Okay.
Because Mancuso was a big.
See, I learned something new every time. Anyway, so I went on the interview and I got the part, and really didn't know what it was, but I knew I was going to work 6 weeks, and that would pay for a couple of semesters of out-of-state tuition in Ann Arbor, Michigan, at University of Michigan. So I'm like, I'm in, and no clue that this movie would go on to be what it is, and no clue that I'd be here 40 years later and sitting with all of you who know lines from the film, and your kids know it, and your grandkids know it, and it's been really, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but it's been really phenomenal that I got this role and got to be a part of it.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Hi, everybody. I like being here too. The weird thing is, Larry was 18 and she was 7. I was 27, so I kind of thought, why do they want this old guy going with a bunch of kids out to a camp? It was weird to me, but Tracie's mom was actually my agent.
Yeah.
But that's not how I got this role. I got it because she and I have a mutual friend, a third client of her mother's named Harris, and Harris auditioned for this film. But it was initially a non-union film, and we're union actors, so I was a little, I don't know, I wasn't working a lot, so I thought, okay, I'll audition. And then during the audition, they let us know that it's going to be called Friday the 13th. Would you mind if we go union? I said, yes, that'd be excellent. So I got it through a friend of a friend is how I got the role. But the unique thing about my casting process, and I've told some of you as you came to the table, is that they definitely wanted to model my character after a male-female Cheech and Chong. And I did the audition with this totally accent, and they wanted me to do that. And then they were going to cast a Hispanic female, which they did not do. And then when we got this up, they said, yeah, we're going to drop the accent too. I said, okay, whatever. But it was just until I got to the set that they said, yeah, this is a different actress than you ever read with. And hey, welcome to Rachel. Huh?
Yeah.
So that's how I got it. Oh, and I slept with Steve Miner, yeah.
All right, so of course, part 3 was the first and to date only film in the series to be filmed in 3D. I am just wondering what some of the challenges were in making such a film. I understand that the acting component was secondary to the technical considerations of what was required. It's like journalism trying to be eloquent there.
I'm just gonna go with, we were so damn good, they didn't care about, like, they knew we had it. But anyway, the 3D, because it wasn't just like it was 3D, it was a new 3D. No one had ever used this sort of 3D process. We were the clear glasses. It wasn't red blue. It was a whole. So they invented. So I don't even know if they know this. Like the first thing we filmed was a scene at the store. We came in, we filmed it, and then the next day they're like, we're shutting
That
down
would
for a
be
week.
like you and Vera.
Me and Mira at the book.
Okay.
That was the first. Well, that was the first thing we shot, and they're like, it was. I don't know what happened, but they're like, come back in a week. So we were.
I think
Hope
they
you're
changed
honest.
the camera system, didn't they? I think I read that they changed the actual equipment or something.
It wasn't working. So then we had to restart it. Everything just took. But everything just took forever.
Yeah.
I mean, because they just trying to get the lighting, and every scene was 2 hours of setup. With, if you know, you do a movie, you do a master shot, and then you'll do close-ups, and so master, and then 2 hour break to do the close-up, and it.
And there was really a little bit of pressure, not that we ever really felt pressure, but to get the lines, I mean, to get your lines right. And because they spent hours and hours setting up for a shot, and they yell action, you do the scene, and then they're moving on to the next scene. And if you, gosh, I don't really like my delivery in that. Can we do it again? I didn't quite, and forget it, we're moving on.
They didn't do more than two takes, three, maybe.
Never. So
three.
you had to be prepared and have it down, and because they're not looking at how good an actor you are, they're looking technically to see if they got the shot that they needed.
And except if it was a 3D shot, so like I'm throwing the wallet at the camera in the store. That was 15 takes because it was like, nope, you didn't hit it. Nope, you didn't hit it. Nope, you didn't hit it. I mean, it was, it's hard to hit it anyway. So that was where you had a lot of takes.
Larry didn't play a lot of sports.
How was it working with Steve Miner? He had already done the part 2, of course, by that point.
I thought he was great. I thought he was just another one of the kids, if you ask me. He was young. He was a young guy, and he'd drive up. Was it Frank or Steve that had a fancy Corvette? Frank. Okay. Well, anyway, they both drive up in their fancy little cars. These young.
Frank Mancuso Jr.
Junior, yeah.
Frank Mancuso Sr. ran Paramount.
Yeah.
So he was.
Yeah.
The
son of this
rich guy.
Yeah. They just drove up in their fancy cars, and they were like young kids. Let's play. Let's make a movie. And I thought they were great. I thought they were just nice and laid back and.
For an alternative point of view of Steve's great direction,
Yeah.
I didn't think in that film he was a great director. He would ask
Scandal.
me. He would,
Look at you,
This is
Batman.
going to be the lead story.
I just say that he would say, okay, do it again. Okay, you have an idea how you want me to do it again? No, just do it again. Okay, I'm gonna write the story for you, okay. And
Yeah.
so he didn't, now he became a good director. He did the Wonder Years, a lot of the episodes of the Wonder Years, and he became a pretty damn good director.
Yeah, he did the pilot. He won the BGA award for best TV episode for that.
But then I
So
feel, could have thought more ideas.
he was more focused on the
3D.
the technical difficulties.
Yeah, probably the pressures on him to get it done the way that needed to be done for the lenses or whatever probably overrode the.
It was a long shoot. It ended up being a 12-week shoot, which is the first movie I think they filmed in 20 days, something like that. So the fact that they had
Money. Daddy's money.
well, I mean, it went way. I mean, I don't think they tended to spend.
Yeah.
It was like $4 million. I mean, the first movie was made for $500,000.
But when you watch it, there are actually some very nice things in it that you had not seen before that. Some of the camera shots and everything, they were actually quite very well done. That you wouldn't see typically in a low budget horror film, especially a slasher film.
Yeah, I know most of you have not seen it in a theater in 3D, but if you ever have the opportunity, you go and do that, because it really is a different experience to see it in the theater. In Paramount last year, they did make a new digital remaster with Dolby Sound, and it looks great, and it really, so if you have a theater near you, as Friday the 13th, call your independent theater and say, can you book it for the night? And, they can just book it and go, you get a bunch of friends and go see it. Guarantee you'll have a great time.
So, of course, this is the film that first introduces Jason's iconic mask. And I
Shelly's
understand
iconic mask.
Shelly turns Jason's iconic mask. But I understand that whole thing came about because the 3D effects supervisor Martin Sadoff. He was a hockey player, and he just happened to have this gear in his vehicle, I guess, and they brought out the mask. Is that how it is, or is this how it really went down, or is that just what we've been fed?
Well, Gretzky gave Shelly the mask.
Tracie was 4 at the time.
But we were not involved in the
Okay.
process of choosing the mask. Marty Sadoff takes the credit. Other people have taken the credit.
Okay.
We were not asked.
Oh, okay.
What we wanted to
And
do.
nobody told you dish the dirt on this.
Listen, I was just trying to do what I had. But Marty said Marty definitely was a hockey fan. He was a big Buffalo Sabres fan.
Yay!
I remember that. So it's possible he said, but then they had to make them and put them all together. And that was all done in pre-production. It wasn't like, so they did that all before we started. They knew they were going to do this hockey match.
Yeah.
Larry, how did you know that Marty was a Buffalo Sabre? I mean, how did you even know that? Like, he has
Of all the cast, nobody
knowledge.
knows more about these
I
films
mean,
than Larry.
How do you even know that?
Because I don't know that I'm supposed to take out the garbage when my wife asks. Because these things are in my brain.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. It all makes sense.
So, what was your reaction when you did see Richard Brooker wearing this mask? I mean, were you frightened at all? Did you think it was effective, menacing? Like, what do you think? Did you?
Well, the first time I saw Richard Brooker walking on the set, he had that hockey mask on. He's British, and he was smoking a pipe, and he goes, "Who am I going to kill now?" That was not menacing.
Yeah.
Physically, I mean, he passed away number of years now, maybe about a decade, 5.
More than that.
And 6'4" or thereabouts. So physically, he was the largest actor to portray Jason up to that point.
Up to that point, it was Ari and Warrington. That's not too much of a point.
I think also about Steve Dash also. Yeah, so I mean, he must have been intimidating. It must have been intimidating when he was in his full gear.
But
and
when you're on the
everything.
set and it's long days, sometimes we were shooting night shoots, so we'd go in at 6 at night and shoot till 6 in the morning, and you're just sitting around, either you're sitting in your trailer or you're sitting playing cards with somebody, and if you walk by, he was a very nice man. He was kind of a serious actor. He was older than us, so he was kind of kept his distance, only in that he's an adult and we were kids. You're just, there was nothing menacing at all because it's just part of the role, and it was fun to see him when he would walk by all in his mask, but no, I don't think there was ever a time where it freaked us out, because we saw the process. We saw him arrive on set and then get the makeup on, and so it wasn't really frightening.
I was acting.
Yeah, yeah.
I
You weren't
never
afraid, but yeah.
saw Richard in the mask.
Oh, okay.
I have no scenes with Richard, and we filmed the movie chronologically, except for the store. We did the store scene first, and then everything else was chronological. We did the store scene, then they did Harold and Edna, and then we just everything is chronological. So he doesn't have the mask until he kills me, and you don't.
And you never hung around
you
and
never
check
did.
out.
I'd see him because he'd be on the set because there are a couple of scenes where he's killing Foxley, but he didn't have the mask yet because he hasn't killed me yet. So you just see a guy wearing with the Jason makeup, smoking a pipe.
Yeah.
So speaking of makeup, your death appears off scene. Tracie, your kill scene is very reminiscent to that of Kevin Bacon's in the first Friday. And then David, you get thrown into the fuse box. So see, if you'd only been wearing shoes instead of walking around barefoot through the whole movie and walking in puddles and all that, you probably still would have been alive. You wouldn't have been that.
You're saying this as if it's past tense to you.
Yes, it's past tense until future tense.
But I'm just wondering how uncomfortable the makeup process or filming the scenes where, I guess, Tracie, this would be more for you.
She had the toughest job.
Yeah. It was, that scene is all where I'm in the hammock and the hand comes up and the knife pops out. It was, 6 seconds maybe? I mean, it was a pretty quick scene. But technically, a lot went into it, and it was hours and hours and hours of preparation to shoot that short little scene. They had to make a replica of my torso from here down to my waist, a foam rubber replica of my upper body that they glued to my neck, and they had to hide the seam so that you couldn't see that seam where this fake thing was. And then I sat, imagine this is the hammock, they put a hole in it and my body went under it, but my upper body was on top, and then they attached the torso, which they extended out in front of me. And that way it gave them a little bit of play from my real chest to the fake chest to stick a knife up through there and kill me. But they had to make sure that it worked right, that the knife would, the blood would come out right, that everything had to be right, and also that it would be caught on 3D, the 3D cameras. So I was in the makeup chair for hours and hours and hours, and we were inside, but for some reason we were shooting overnights, so it was probably like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and we basically did one take for that, because they had 2 foam replicas in case it didn't work out the first time, but because it was hours to just get it right and get the makeup right, and the lighting for 3D had to be just perfect. It was a long, boring day, sitting in the makeup chair and then sitting in the hammock just right, and we rehearsed to make sure that it would work out right. But it was quite an interesting, it was fun. I mean, it was boring but fun. It was fun for me to watch the process. And then that foam replica was actually a foam copy of my chest and my body, and I took it with me. There were 2 of them, and at the time I had a serious boyfriend in Michigan, and I put a little row of lace around the edge of it, my chest, and I was living in California, and I mailed it to him as a gift.
Here I am.
Yeah, you can snuggle up with me while I'm here and you're there, which is kind of crazy, but and then I was supposed to marry him and I didn't. My brothers teased me that he then threw it in the trash. So I don't know what happened to that afterwards, but anyway, yeah, it was interesting, and technically it was fun, but it was long time to get it right, and it's fun to see how it turned out.
And you mentioned California, so part 3 was the first Friday film to be filmed in California. Up to that point, they had been done in the East Coast. So I know that there were a lot of challenges involved with that. For instance, the lake, or the water wasn't an actual lake or anything. They had to pump in a bunch of water just to get that there. And then, of course, there were sets built. You had the barn and you had the cabin.
I think they
and all
existed. There was. We went to this place, the Values Ed Movie Ranch, and so I think those were pre-existing structures because they.
The barn was pretty.
Yeah.
Oh, the barn
And then
existed
I think
already.
the house-
I think the house might have been too.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
And there's no real second story to that house other than the balcony.
Yeah, it's a fake house.
Like when you
It's
see
just
like
a
she's in the
just a
bathroom
facade.
and stuff, they just redid the bottom floor.
Okay.
Someone, I just want to interrupt, someone had told me that the basement that I go down to die in didn't really exist in the house. That was just how they shot it. No, there was a cellar there. Definitely, I walked down some stairs.
And that's where that scene was filmed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all down there.
Okay.
The one thing I want to say about my death scene is that I get thrown into a fuse box and they have this electrician tape around the edge of a very sharp box, and They said, okay, we're gonna throw you in this, oh, and by the way, they had a springboard, so I had to, the guy who gets a punch in any film is the guy who sells it. So if you get thrown, you better be flying, and that's what we did, but they said, when you put your hand on the fuse box, look away, you'll be fine. And then they said, okay, let's roll. Everybody, 25 feet away from the fuse box. What the fuck?
And Larry, I mean, when you show up in the doorway and Shelly answers the door, we don't even know. We think you're playing a first time viewers are gonna think, all right, this guy's like pulling our leg again, and
Do they think that?
I don't know. I think some of them think that
Because Jason's already, but Vera's already dead.
Yeah,
so Jason's
I
already
don't-
come out.
or maybe that's what they intended.
I know, that was the intent. I don't know that anybody's fault, but yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Continue.
fooled. I was totally
Yeah,
fooled.
yeah. Oh, another practical joke.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's 42 years since the film came out. It was a massive hit in its day.
And yet
I
Tracy
think
and I
it's-
are only 32.
It was I've read it was the second biggest horror film of '82 and one of the top films of the year. It even displaced E.T.
And it was
At one point.
We were right. We won the weekend. Now
Yeah.
this was way into E.T.'s run. E.T. had won and was the number one gruesome movie of all time at the time. But
Top grossing horror movie of '82, no pun intended there.
No, it was Poltergeist.
Or Poltergeist, sorry, the
Poltergeist was number one.
second top.
But it was also the highest grossing 3D film ever produced at that time.
Okay.
But you know, there were very few 3D films made up to that point.
Well, they were the '50s movies,
Yeah,
which had
yeah, yeah.
for inflation, whatever. But it was a big hit. We were.
Okay, that's my story.
We made 36 million in theaters, which would be 117 million US now, so that's a huge amount of money for and for any.
Again, Larry, take out the trash.
On a budget of 9 million.
I think it was 4. I heard 4. It's 4.
Oh, I'm sorry, I said 9, but it had a 3 or 4 million marketing budget. Was part of that.
Distribution.
Oh, well, yeah, so it was big. We opened the same day as Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
And we're better. We're definitely better.
One day I took down Sean Penn. He took his revenge.
So I mean, after all this time, how do you feel to be associated with this? And are you? I'm sure you've been asked.
This is really the gift that we are so grateful. And we really, every time we come together, we're just always like, we so appreciate the fans who have now we have a new generation of fans, because it was the people who were, you know, I mean, I was 18 when the movie came out, so if you saw that movie, you're somewhere above 50, if you saw that movie when it first came out, or in the initial VHS run. But now there's a new generation of younger people who saw the movie on DVD or on cable and caught it, and it's.
And then the younger ones who are watching it streaming, so yeah, it's two or three generations.
But the great thing about horror fans, and when I first did this film, it wasn't the genre I leached onto, but then you start to do these shows, and you guys are an exceptional group. You are very inclusive to all kinds of people, and I like that. I like that someone can be fat, black, gay, straight, whatever, and they're accepted by most of the people here, and that's more important to me than anything.
We are the weirdos.
We are the weirdos.
You're the memorable ones. I mean, other than Jason. All right, we got about 10 minutes tops to ask a few quick questions. Who's first? All right.
Question for Larry. What was it like working with Gloria, who plays Fox?
Oh, Gloria, who sadly passed away, she played Fox. So the first day of filming, we were at the store, and she lived near me, and they asked, her car was in the shop, and so I drove with her. I drove her to the thing, which was like an hour drive, so we got to talk, and she was super nice and very down to earth, nothing like Fox at all. And unfortunately, I didn't really get to spend time, you know, I don't, other than that scene, so we didn't have any other scenes together, so I didn't really see them after we filmed that scene, and she didn't do any conventions, so I never got to see her much again.
Did you at least give her a ride home too?
I think I did.
Okay.
You got a car by the next.
All right, who else has a question? Yep.
I'm sure you get asked this all the time, Larry, but what pushed you towards being a lawyer after?
Oh, so I became a lawyer. Well, I was, acting wasn't paying the bills, somehow. I peaked at Shelly, and my dad was a lawyer, and he said he paid for law school, and so I went to law school, and I've been a lawyer for 33 years, and I'm an entertainment lawyer, and I represent people in the horror community, and like I'm the lawyer for Terrifier, and so that's.
Ask him about Terrifier.
Yeah, so that's been quite a ride too. So I'm Damien's lawyer, and that's all.
All right, who else? Yeah, quick question, please.
Why do you think people love horror movies so much? Why are they so passionate about it?
Why are people passionate about it?
Yeah.
I think that it catches you right at your visceral emotion, that the terror that you feel sometimes when watching a film, your adrenaline starts to go crazy. Then a moment passes, you know the character's safe, and now you get to enjoy all that endorphins. It's a drug, baby. So I think it's the rise and fall of endorphins that happen when you're watching horror films, that people go, I like that.
I like that. And it's also, you go, most, the primary age are teenage boys that see these films, and you're at that age where these movies make an imprint on you. You don't ever forget seeing them, and it's a part of your youth, it's a part of your childhood, and you take it with you then for the rest of your life. I've told a few of this, that I saw Night of the Living Dead when I was a little girl. My brother took me to it, and I was too young to see it. Scared the heck out of me, but I remember it to this day. And when I got to meet George Romero, who produced and directed and wrote, I was like starstruck, and I told him, you don't know the impact your movie had on me, and now, you know, all these decades later, it's such an